Okay. For some reason, I'm a little nervous making this video, but I feel compelled, led to make this video anyway. Chances are the people that I'm making this video will never see it. However, if you do end up seeing it, at some point, someone shares it with you, or if you happen to see that I'm sharing it with you, um, don't feel obligated to mention it or share it. This is for you, Dennis Prager and Candace Owens. And I'm going to try to get through this without getting emotional, because actually what I heard that was happening between the two of you actually kind of made me emotional. It reminded me of a telephone call that I heard between my daughter, who's a few years younger than Candace, several years ago, and her dad. And I was sitting listening, and my daughter was crying. There was some issues. This is, I think, maybe either right after she graduated from high school or maybe right before. And there had been some issues with her growing up with her stepmom and that kind of situation. And to just kind of summarize the phone call, I think, I was listening to her dad and I could hear that he was about to cry. So everything that was going on, even though they were kind of, not seeing eye to eye in this conversation, he was very brokenhearted over the fact that she did not understand him. And she was very brokenhearted over the fact that he did not understand her. Now, at the time, I can't be sure whether my daughter was picking up on and detecting that her dad was so broken by this conversation. And I never did ask her. But I did tell her that I had picked up on that. I said, I think he's sincere. And I think that he just doesn't understand. I understood both of them and where they were coming from and what they were going through, but they didn't understand each other. And at that point, my daughter, she had to have been 18. She was an adult, but even still, he and I didn't have to communicate or talk that often. We weren't hostile. At least I wasn't hostile to him, but we didn't need to talk that often. And so we didn't talk that often. But I reached out to him and I told him, I said, I would like to try to help you understand, where our daughter's coming from or something like that. I can't remember, because I just felt terrible about the entire thing. And I think I reached out by text and he never responded. I might have even reached out twice. I'm not exactly sure. He never responded. And so I just left it at that. I'm not convinced that that wound is completely healed, but I hope that it is. And I won't get into the reasons why. So when I heard Dennis Prager talking about what went down between he and Candace, he was on the Valuetainment podcast with Patrick Bet-Davis. And what I heard from him reminded me very much of the way that my daughter's dad sounded on the phone when he was talking to my daughter that day. And I have so much respect for Candace Owens. She is one of the most principled people that I follow on social media. And she is one of the most courageous people that I know. She's got a lot of class and integrity. For example, the way that she handled the situation with the Daily Wire, I thought was as classy and professional as it gets. And even though I have respect for Ben, I really, I felt like he was very, very, not as professional, let me put it that way. And I do have respect for him, so I know situations can be difficult, but I felt like she handled that with the most professionalism possible. Now, I have not heard the report that Candace made on the reports that she made about Jewish history that so offended Dennis Prager. And I have not heard any programs that he's done about this, aside from what I heard on the Valuetainment podcast. But I felt like, just like my daughter and her dad, these are two people who have grown through so much together that this cannot be something that comes between you. This is the devil at work. This is how the devil comes in and causes petty divisions and causes pain and brokenheartedness so that people cannot do great things together. And I had to say something. When I heard Dennis talking, I did not hear him say that anything that Candace reported was untrue. Now, if I'm wrong about that, somebody please let me know. What I heard was him saying, no, you cannot talk about these things, because if you talk about these things, people will apply that to the entire group of Jewish people and it will make us unsafe. And I'm afraid, especially right now. That's what I heard from Dennis. However, that's the wrong way to come at that. As a Black woman, and I know as Candace, as a Black woman, we know and we understand what it's like to be a Black person, have someone criticize another Black person and have to put our foot down and say, I refuse to allow this to be applied to all Black people just because the truth has been spoken about that Black person. And I encourage you, Dennis, and any Jewish person out there, because I know it's a difficult time right now, but I understand this. I bet Candace understands this. I bet many, many Black conservatives who only recently have come to understand that we cannot shy away from those things in our community that are bad, some horrible things that we don't want to look at, that we want to look away from, things that we want to shush so that other people won't think that we're bad. This is something that everybody has to stop doing. There are even evil people in all of our ancestries, and there are amazing good people in all of our ancestries. I don't know the context in which this was reported, but I do know this. We can't not speak the truth about one or two bad people in the name of no, because we don't want people to misconstrue it. What we have to do is we have to make sure that people do not misconstrue it, that we have to make sure that people look at each person as an individual. Because if you hide the information on the bad people, then it's kind of like applying saintliness to a group, and that allows Satan to creep in and use people in the wrong way. Everybody needs to know that everyone's going to call out the bad, the negative, the wickedness, wherever we see it, whenever we see it, so that we can never be deceived by any kind of a groupthink. And so, Dennis, if you hear this, I encourage you to some of the Prager University videos are some of the best videos in the world for helping people to understand truth. Dennis, do not be afraid. Just like any group of hateful people, just like the KKK, just like any group of hateful people throughout history, they are always a tiny group of people who get their power from secrecy, from bullying and shutting down the truth, from making people who want to stand up against it be afraid, and we can never give in to that. And I need for you, Dennis, to know that Candace is coming from a special place. I have been telling people in my small inner circle for a long time that Black people cannot allow whatever pain we feel or shame we feel about some of the terrible things that are happening in our community. We can't allow that to sweep it under the rug. And that's whether it's historical or current. That we can't allow it to be swept under the rug so that people will not look at all of us. At the end of the day, we all have to believe as believers, regardless of what faith. If we are believers, if we believe in the Almighty, we have to have faith that truth is always the right way. Even those inconvenient truths, even those ugly truths. And let the rest of us who believe in truth have your back and protect you, and let us, I don't know you, Dennis, but I believe that Candace would say Dennis is a good man, and you're not going to apply negativity to any one person because of that. But Dennis, for you, I think that you will damage yourself much more by not being able to trust us, trust truth, trust good intentions, trust good people. Trust us to be able to have your back on that kind of stuff, so that you don't have to create, wedges and divisions. I could hear the pain in your voice. I could hear it, and I was so saddened by it. And, I was never able to connect with my daughter's father to let him know that, there's still time. He's still out there. He's still alive and still well. But it still matters. I can't see you two fall out after everything that happened with Dale. The devil is real, and he would really, really love to find anything, any little thing, to ruin the mass awakening that's happening in the world right now. And we can't let it happen. We can't let it happen. So we have to fight to stay united, stay together, keep doing the work, keep standing on the truth. Yeah, that's it. So again, I hope somebody gets this, especially to Dennis, because it doesn't really matter. I just hope that if Candace and Dennis don't hear it, if anybody else is in this position and you understand what it is that I'm saying, just understand this. Like, we have to operate in the truth, and we have to not be afraid. It just gives too much power and too much energy to the wrong things, and we can't let it happen. We're so close. I feel like we're so close to not having these kinds of divisions, and as a result of that, not having these kind of fears anymore. And I want to see it. I want to see it happen. I want to live to see it happen. So we have to keep fighting for that. So, if you like this video, if you understand what I'm talking about, comment on this video. I'm going to make a separate video that has to do with the fathers and daughters, and something that I've seen, especially for fathers who have been absent. How can you get those connections back? You can get them back. But there's a very, very special process that you have to go through, and it is not easy. But the sooner you do it, the easier it is, and the less time you lose. You can never get time back. So don't treat it with the level of preciousness that it has. Okay. All right. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.